A mechanic's error in judgment
Well, it wasn't that busy, so I offered to help the guys.
leads to a mid-flight disaster.
High speed.
To find out later that something they did or an airplane they had worked on went down, that's got to be a special level of hell.
Reach over here.
Botched maintenance leads to a life and death struggle in the sky.
Emery 17 extreme
balance problem.
3 pilots lost their lives because of a bolt, a nut, and a cotter key.
Sometimes, the failure of a tiny piece of the plane can lead to tragedy. A trio of crashes reveals the critical importance of following the proper procedures for maintenance.
In each of these cases, the plane was lost because of a bolt.
Autopilot off.
Continental Express Flight 2574 nears the end of its hour-long flight from Laredo to Houston, Texas. There are 11 passengers on board.
2574.
They're going to bring everybody in on 26 or 27.
Okie dokie.
The pilots prepare the Embraer 120 Brasilia for their second landing of the day. Captain Brad Patridge is just 29 years old. The first officer, Clint Radosevich, is 43. The two have close to 16,000 flying hours between them.
Pushing this descent, making like the space shuttle.
High speed. High speed.
Within seconds, the aircraft's steady descent
Stall.
becomes an uncontrolled freefall. Flight 2574 nosedives almost 12,000 feet and hits the ground at a speed exceeding 300 miles an hour.
What we see on the ground is not recognizable in any shape, form, or fashion as having been an airplane.
The broken-up aircraft has plunged into the middle of a field about an hour west of Houston, Texas. All 14 people on board are dead. A team of investigators from the National Transportation Safety Board arrives at the crash site.
I was a little bit scared when I first saw the wreckage. The airplane was destroyed, and there wasn't a lot to go on.
But the black boxes are found and rushed to NTSB headquarters in Washington, D.C. The spread of the wreckage gives investigators much-needed information.
I saw the cockpit was there, the fuselage was there. The left wing had folded under the right wing, and a portion of the vertical stabilizer was there. But the horizontal stabilizer was missing.
The Embraer 120 is what's called a T-tail airplane, because the horizontal stabilizer sits on top of the tail. It's found more than 200 yards from the debris field.
Can someone help me get a bearing on this?
That made me believe that there is definitely an in-flight breakup of an airplane.
I'm guessing that tail came off at about 9,000 feet.
We started to look at the fracture surfaces of the vertical stabilizer.
The edges are jagged, indicating the tail was ripped off suddenly. And there's another clue.
I noticed that the leading edge on the left side horizontal stabilizer was missing.
The leading edge is a rounded piece that allows air to pass over the stabilizer and keep the plane steady.
A key question there is, what was the first part that came off of the airplane? Because a lot of times the initiating event is going to be found in those early parts that break from the airplane in an in-flight breakup.
The leading edge is not near the crash site. Finding it will be key to discovering what happened to Flight 2574. As searchers comb the area, the investigators receive a copy of the cockpit voice recording from the lab in Washington, D.C.
Radio check. Radio check.
I can hear you loud and clear.
As you also.
Okay, I'll get you some ATIS.
All right.
Most of the recording sounds routine.
Jetling 2574, say your heading.
050.
There is no hint of trouble until
Pushing this descent, making like the space shuttle.
the engines suddenly start to roar. Flight warning alarms scream.
Stall. Stall. Stall.
And all conversation ends. The recording tells investigators the pilots had no advance warning of their plane's nosedive.
The event happened extremely fast. I don't think there was anything that the crew could have done.
Analysis of the flight data recorder confirms that conclusion.
We didn't see anything unusual about the accident flight until the very instant that we had the pitch down.
The cause of the crash remains a mystery. Investigators will need to locate the missing leading edge to find out what went wrong. The missing piece is 10 feet long. Investigators calculate that it must be hidden somewhere in an area covering 4.5 square miles.
We were doing marches through the area, and after several days went by, it was difficult. We had flights by the local volunteer groups were flying over the site.
The piece is nowhere to be found.
I think it's somewhere in here.
Over the next couple of days, we went to that area and we laid out a grid to search for it. We searched for it on in the four-wheelers and in the helicopter.
On the third day, the investigation gets a much-needed break.
We were flying over the Texas countryside, big cattle country. Suddenly the pilot sitting next to me said, "I think I say it."
We were really excited. You want to do your best to understand what happened in an accident. And if you didn't have the key part, there would always be questions.
The state of the leading edge raises more questions.
The lower surface holes onto the leading edge were elongated. They were cracked as if you have pulled it through the fasteners.
But the holes that hold the piece to the top of the stabilizer look quite different.
The evidence indicated that the leading edge upper surface holes were absolutely clean, no elongation, no damage.
Screws on top.
It looked like there was no screws attached onto the top surface of the horizontal stabilizer leading edge.
Investigators now need to answer two questions. Why were the screws missing? And
Losing this actually caused the plane to crash?
With all of the pieces of Continental Airlines Flight 2574 now recovered, the investigation moves to the NTSB headquarters in Washington, D.C. Investigators first need to know how the left leading edge, found nearly a mile from the rest of the tail section, is connected to the crash.
Well, we're just trying to make sure that we understood what the motion of the airplane was after the leading edge radius broke off.
The horizontal stabilizer is like an upside-down wing. It pushes the tail down while the wings lift it. Reducing the downforce on the stabilizer lifts the tail and makes a plane pitch downwards. Engineering simulations suggest that losing just one leading edge would change the aerodynamics enough to send the plane into a catastrophic nosedive.
If there's any component of the wing that you don't want to lose, it's the leading edge.
To learn why the leading edge might have come off during the flight, investigators examine the airline's maintenance records and make an intriguing find. The night before the fatal accident, maintenance crews repaired the plane's de-ice boots. The de-ice boot is a rubber bladder that, when inflated, breaks up ice on the wings and tail.
We wanted to interview every mechanic, supervisor, and inspection person who took part in that activity.
Investigators speak with two maintenance crews, the evening shift, which started the work, and the midnight shift, which finished it. Replacing the boot involves removing the leading edge, stripping off the old boot, and replacing it with a new one. The entire piece is then screwed back onto the horizontal stabilizer. The evening shift inspector, Troy Anderson, should be watching over his team when they remove the screws holding the leading edges in place. But that night, he wasn't just supervising his team.
I had some time to lend a hand. We went up to the stabilizer to start the job.
Mechanics started working on the bottom. The inspector volunteered to climb up on top of the thing and get the top ones.
But when the evening shift clocks off and the midnight shift begins, evening shift mechanics hadn't finished removing badly stripped screws on the right side leading edge.
And it was looking like they weren't going to get both sides done.
Well behind schedule, midnight shift supervisor Adam Dillon makes a critical decision.
Guys, forget the left side for tonight, and let's get this plane out of here.
So your mechanics didn't do any work at all on the left side?
No, we didn't touch it.
After changing the de-ice boot on the right side only, the aircraft is rolled out to the gate for the first flight of the day. 3 hours later, the left leading edge rips off. Investigators suspect that the screws were removed from the top of the left side's leading edge and never replaced. They speak with Troy Anderson again.
So what side did you work on, Troy? Just the right? Both. Look, when I left, the plan was to do both sides.
The inspector went up on the man lift and started helping the mechanics. That's not his job. It wasn't his role. It wasn't a good idea.
To make matters worse, no one recorded that the screws were removed by the inspector. The midnight shift had no idea that the leading edge needed to be secured in place.
On a shift turnover, that's one of the critical things that you have. You have a written record that anyone can go back to. It wasn't done.
Investigators now know that a failure in routine maintenance caused the crash of Flight 2574. The significance of First Officer Radosevich's last words is now tragically clear.
Pushing this descent, making like the space shuttle.
The pilots increased their speed, putting extra stress on the horizontal stabilizer.
The airplane broke apart at the highest speed that it reached since the maintenance was done the night before. The aerodynamic forces were very high, and so eventually they were enough to bend the leading edge radius downward because it wasn't attached anymore on the top of the horizontal tail, and they bent it downward to the point where finally the oncoming air was powerful enough to break it off.
The aircraft hurtled to Earth at an astounding 320 miles per hour.
On the cockpit voice recording, the pilots don't say anything after it happens. They were probably incapacitated. It's that violent.
In the final report, the NTSB faults Continental Express for not ensuring that the mechanics and inspectors completed paperwork correctly.
This was a preventable accident. If they had strictly followed those procedures, this accident should not have happened.
As a result of the crash, airlines now used computerized systems to meticulously track mechanics' work.
It was an important step in the evolution of safety and the safety of parts. So it was a small plane with a big impact.
When a cargo jet loses control after takeoff,
Emery 17 emergency.
Emery 17, say again.
Investigators find the smallest of culprits. Mayday Airport, Sacramento, California.
You flew jump seat from Dayton, right?
Yes, sir.
Captain Kevin Stables is preparing to pilot Emery Worldwide Flight 17. His first officer is George Land.
Inspection's complete. Cargo door's closed.
Joining the pilots is flight engineer Russell Hicks. They're flying freight from Sacramento to Dayton, Ohio, on a 30-year-old DC-8 cargo plane.
The DC-8 is a fantastic plane. The thing was built like a tank. It was kind of a pilot's plane. It took a lot of work, and it took a lot of physical effort.
Any knots? Elevator checks.
V1. Rotate.
As the nose wheel leaves the ground, the DC-8 pitches upward more steeply than expected.
Watch the tail.
The sudden takeoff is quickly followed by an uncommanded left bank.
Center of gravity's way out of limits.
They need to return to the airport as quickly as possible.
Emery 17 emergency.
Emery 17, say again.
Emery 17, we have an emergency.
You steer, I'm pushing.
The DC-8 starts climbing again.
Emery 17, extreme balance problem.
Terrain, pull up.
Push.
Pull up.
Push forward.
In a desperate effort to level the plane, they exert maximum force on the control column.
Power. More?
Yeah.
Left turn.
The airplane started to go into these big perturbations, dive and then climb, dive and then climb.
You steer, I'm pushing.
So now you have 3 pilots trying to work in harmony. That's good from a cockpit resource management standpoint.
Terrain, pull up. Terrain, pull up.
We're sinking. We're going down, guys.
Up.
All right, all right.
Pull up. Terrain. Pull up.
The crippled plane is now within sight of the runway, but it's already too late. Emory Flight 17 has crashed into a scrapyard 1 mile east of Sacramento's Mayday Airport. All 3 crew members are dead. Investigators from the NTSB sift through a debris field approximately 450 feet wide and 1/4 mile long. The team quickly makes a crucial find.
Well done, guys.
We did find both the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder, which actually sped up that part of the investigation.
Analyzing the black boxes can be done quickly. But on the ground, the search is arduous.
It was like basically a war zone because the airplane had crashed into this auto salvage yard. There were still smoking automobiles and car parts and airplane parts.
As teams on the ground continue to examine the wreckage, investigators follow up on other lines of inquiry.
Just spoke with the air traffic controller. He said that the pilots called in a center of gravity issue immediately after takeoff.
S03E09, extreme
Balance problem.
Sounds like a problem with the cargo.
The team checks to see if the cargo was properly loaded.
This looks a little lighter than usual, but it's well within the center of gravity limits.
It's clear there was no problem in load distribution. And there's no evidence that the load shifted after takeoff.
All of these restraints look just fine. Thing is, if there wasn't a problem in the cargo hold, why were the pilots reporting a problem with their center of gravity?
In search of a new lead,
okay,
the team turns to the plane's cockpit voice recorder.
Set right. Taxi checklist complete.
When you listen to it, of course, they're very professional. They're doing their checklist items. They respond appropriately, and everything appears to be normal.
Airspeed's 11.
Flight here.
80 knots.
80 knots. Elevator checks.
V1. Rotate. Watch the tail.
The captain is concerned that they're pitching upwards too quickly.
We're going back.
Okay.
What I'm trying to do is make that airplane's position match the elevator. That's why I'm putting it in a bank.
Wait. What did he just say about the elevators?
The elevators, located on the rear of the horizontal stabilizer, control the aircraft's pitch. When tilted upward, the airflow pitches the plane's nose up. When the elevators move downward, the nose pitches down. Investigators wonder if they malfunctioned.
Your elevator isn't where you think it is. An airplane can take off by itself.
They look to Flight 17's data recorder for information about the elevator's performance.
Look at that right there. First officer, he pushed the column forward, and the elevators did not respond. Look at that.
Caution.
Push forward.
Terrain.
Why was that elevator nose up when the pilot was commanding nose down?
Investigators re-examine the recovered elevator assembly, looking for signs of failure.
The elevator wasn't hydraulically powered. Everything was analog, cables and pulleys.
Something strange about the push rods gets their attention.
Why isn't the right one damaged like the left?
The push rod from the left elevator is badly bent, as one would expect. But the rod from the right elevator is not. The push rod is a key part of the elevator mechanism. When the pilot moves the control column, the push rod drives the elevator up and down.
So this is the rod in question, and it would be attached with a nut and a bolt and a cotter pin that would lock it in place.
This right push rod wasn't even connected.
The absence of damage to the right side rod suggests that it detached before the crash. The big questions are why? And is this the cause of the crash? Investigators need to find out what caused an elevator pushrod on Emery Worldwide Flight 17 to disconnect. They check maintenance records to see if any work was performed on the right elevator assembly.
So it looked like the plane was in for a major overhaul just 3 months before the accident.
The elevators, the control tabs, the rudder, and its tab, all of that had been removed for overhaul and then reinstalled during this very inclusive and invasive check.
During the scheduled maintenance, the plane's elevator dampers were swapped. They're a critical part of the horizontal stabilizer and located near the pushrod.
One of the things that you always look at is what was the last thing touched on the airplane.
So can you show me how you go about swapping the dampers on this DC-8?
Reach over here.
Investigators speak with the mechanic who performed the elevator damper swap on Flight 17.
Detach it from the elevator.
One of the things that mechanics are always looking for is an easier way to perform their responsible duties.
That looks tricky. You ever just disconnect the elevators to get it out of your way?
Well, we're really not supposed to.
Right, I know. Is it hard to do?
An easy way to do it is to relieve the control tab by removing the bolt, the nut, and the cotter key, and allowing the elevator tab to flex down. That makes getting into this damper easier and quicker to replace.
Well, that was easy. You ever do it that way on an actual job?
Like I said, we're really not supposed to.
Right. You ever done this procedure before?
Oh, I followed the manual.
A young mechanic, relatively inexperienced, working alone on the weekend, doing something that he had never done before. Nobody to ask for advice and nobody to provide him guidance or supervision.
It's pretty clear what happened.
The investigators believe that the mechanic made a simple but fatal error during this routine maintenance.
I believe that when this work was done on the damper, he simply put the rod up, put the nut on it, and forgot to put the cotter pin in the nut.
In the 12 weeks leading up to the crash, every time Flight 17 becomes airborne, the nut loosens a bit more until it falls off completely.
The nut comes loose because there's nothing holding it on, essentially. And now the bolt starts to work loose.
80 knots.
80 knots.
On the night of the crash, the right pushrod finally detaches. The elevator column can no longer be controlled. As the plane accelerates along the runway, forces on the tail increase. The elevator control tab moves up. The detached pushrod sticks, and the elevator jams in the nose-up position.
Watch the tail.
Power.
Pull up. Don't sink. Don't sink.
The jammed elevator seals the crew's fate.
Power.
Banking. Banking.
Come on. Come on.
In their final report, NTSB investigators recommend that airlines keep better records of all maintenance procedures to ensure that no steps are missed. Emory Worldwide is also singled out for responsibility.
Emory said, well, this is the first fatal accident we had in 50 years, basically, at that time. Well, that's great, but 3 pilots lost their lives because of a bolt, a nut, and a cotter key.
But before the report is published, the company is shut down.
At the end of the day, when it was all said and done, the FAA moved in and pulled the certificate and grounded the airline.
If you've got any sort of less than perfect maintenance situation going on, you've got not only a dangerous airplane, but essentially an accident waiting to happen.
A twin turboprop goes missing in the North Sea, and the ensuing investigation uncovers a criminal empire half a world away. "22,000 feet above the North Sea, Knut Tvetum and Finn Petter Berg are flying Partnair Flight 394, a charter flight from Oslo, Norway, to the German city of Hamburg.
124.555, Partnair 394. How was dinner? Delicious?
The 2 pilots are friends, and both are close to retiring. The plane they're flying is a twin-prop Convair 340-580, a popular plane for shorter routes like this one. There are 50 passengers on board. It's been an unremarkable flight so far. But then, the plane experiences a sudden and violent shock. It begins rolling. Air traffic control realizes that not only is Partnair 394 off course, it's falling from the sky.
Partnair 394, Copenhagen Control, please report new flight level. Flight level. Up. Airspeed low. Please report new flight level.
Flight 394 disappears from radar. It's crashed into the sea, nearly 13 miles north of the Danish coast. Rescue teams find wreckage and bodies. All 55 passengers and crew are dead. It's the worst loss of life involving a Norwegian airline. Investigators from the Norwegian Accident Investigation Board scrutinize sonar images of the seabed, searching for wreckage.
It was evident that the aircraft had come apart in the air. It hadn't hit the sea in one piece.
The plane's voice and data recorders are retrieved from the seabed. Both boxes are damaged.
Well, let's see what we got.
Autopilot system.
On to degree.
But for some reason, the CVR stopped recording just before the plane took off.
Well, it had recorded the conversation on the ground, but as soon as the engines were upshifted to normal RPM for takeoff, it ceased operations. So that was a disappointment to us.
The flight data recorder isn't any more help. It's a basic analog model that failed to record many of the parameters it was designed to log.
Used a metal foil strip that rotated, and some marking pins actually scratched on the metal surface, on the piece of metal.
The recorder is sent to its American manufacturer for further analysis. In the meantime, investigators painstakingly reconstruct the partner plane.
A reconstruction is like putting together a puzzle that helps investigators focus the investigation on areas that need to be looked at and helps prioritize the investigation.
The team notices heat damage on the tail fin,
which means that it was flexing because you develop heat where you're doing the fatigue.
To learn why, investigators identify the mechanic who inspected the plane on the morning it crashed. They learn from him that one of the plane's two main generators wasn't working. And as two power units are required when flying, the pilots improvised by instead using the auxiliary power unit, or APU.
We'll use the APU to power the left side AC system.
The APU is a backup generator housed inside the rear fin, directly beneath the tail. Under normal circumstances, it's only used to provide power on the ground.
APU is coming on.
When investigators inspect the APU, they make an important discovery. One of the three mounts attaching the generator to the plane is broken. That could have added considerable vibration to the rear of the plane. Did the increased vibration cause the aircraft's mysterious plunge into the sea? To determine if vibration from the broken APU brought down partner Flight 394, metallurgist Terry Heaslip tests the failed part.
My initial reaction was that the welding was bad, was probably inappropriate. I could see the impact markings and the progression markings on it that showed that it did not fail in this last accident flight.
The APU mount was broken long before Flight 394 took off.
That's bad.
But how would that affect the plane's performance?
The APU is a large gyroscope having a tremendous amount of energy in it when it's rotating. And if that energy is transmitted to the surroundings, the fuselage, the structure, it could impact the whole vibration pattern in the tail.
With a broken supporting mount, vibrations would have been magnified. But investigators can't yet determine if that was enough to bring the plane down. As the recovered fuselage takes shape, there's a promising lead. Two panels from the plane's tail fin are missing.
We saw that the rudder had been torn apart in two major pieces and some parts are missing. In particular, the doors between the fin and rudder were missing.
The doors give mechanics access to counterweights inside the rudder that control its movement. If a rudder moves too violently from side to side, the weights do so as well.
We found enough pieces to show that it was just pounding these doors, and the first real components that came off were those doors.
Investigators conclude that at 22,000 feet, these doors were knocked off because the counterweights inside the rudder were swinging violently back and forth. The question is, why was the tail moving with so much force?
The APU with the broken front shock mount on its own, running in flight, would not cause the aircraft to come apart and the tail to come apart. There had to be extra factors there for that to occur.
Hoping for answers, investigators examined the plane's maintenance history.
Where was the work done?
They discover that 2 months before the accident, a mechanic replaced one of the 4 bolts that connect the vertical fin to the plane's tail. These 4 bolts are all that hold the tail to the fuselage. Remarkably, All 4 have been recovered from the wreckage. A close analysis provides a chilling finding. Of the 4 bolts, only 1 is a certified part.
Worked out that the 3 of the assemblies were not up to scratch. They were bogus assemblies.
Metallurgical analysis confirms that the 3 faulty bolts were incorrectly heat treated when they were made.
Got something for me?
Mm-hmm. They meet only 60% of the strength requirement.
They just weren't hard enough. Unbelievable.
A picture of what happened to Flight 394 has finally emerged. The crash was caused by a tragic combination of events. On the day of the accident, the pilots kept their plane operational by using the auxiliary power unit during flight.
APU is coming on.
They had no idea the APU mount was broken and added considerable vibration to the tail. To make matters worse, the 3 uncertified bolts that were holding the tail in place added even more vibration.
If the 2 loose items start to vibrate in the same frequency, one vibration is feeding the other one. They're feeding each other and making each other worse and worse.
The vibrations could have torn the plane apart.
The combined vibrations caused the loose tail to swing violently, jamming the rudder to the left and forcing the plane into a steep left roll. The roll is so extreme, the tail's counterweights knock the doors off. Then, the plane begins to break up. The crew never had a chance. Investigators conclude that partner Flight 394 fell out of the sky because 3 of the 4 bolts holding the tail on the plane were counterfeit. The Norwegian report sends shockwaves throughout the industry and raises a frightening question. How many of the parts put in planes around the world are bogus? In the United States, the FAA takes action and launches a major investigation into parts suppliers. The operation exposes a vast black market for spare parts. In some cases, thousands of worn and inferior pieces are made to look brand new. More than 100 parts dealers are arrested in the United States.
With every conviction, we were able to raise the level of awareness, not only of the problem, but of the severe consequences if you want to risk somebody's life.
The Federal Aviation Administration institutes a much more rigorous system for documenting airplane parts. And airlines now face criminal charges if they knowingly accept unapproved ones.
We trust our maintenance people. We basically literally put our lives in their hands in every instance, and 99.999% of the time they live up to that trust. But every now and then human nature takes over, and we end up with something like these 3 accidents, each one of which is just chilling to the bone.